excited to see you all here for our Difference Maker Showcase. Every month we highlight our newest authors and their creations, and we have some incredible books to share with you all. We're so thrilled that you are with us. My name is Dr. Angela Loria. I am the CEO and the founder of the Author Incubator. I have an amazing co-host to share with you today. It's my buddy, Ramses Rodriguez. Hey, Ramses, how you doing?
Hey, we're going to have a good time.
We are. Ramses is a best-selling author. He is our head author success coach. He has helped hundreds of authors get their books done, and he is the program director here at the Author Incubator. I love showing these babies off, don't you?
Oh my God, it's such a journey for them, and it is an amazing time to work with them throughout their entire journey. And I don't know, I feel like a proud papa sometimes when they start launching their books.
Yeah, it's great because you have this idea. I mean, I know both of us did when we've written our books. It's like you have an idea of what it's going to be like, but then it's always a little bit different. There's twists and turns. You think, I think people picture that idyllic cabin in the woods where things finally calm down and they're writing, and life doesn't always go that way.
Definitely not. For sure. Even like you said, you and I both have written, and we know that it comes with obstacles and lifing.
Yes.
Whenever you write a book, there's all this lifing that's going on. At least not for me. I've never been able to end up in a cabin writing a book.
One out of our 1,500 authors did that.
Ooh.
And I was very impressed. Ken Leinbach, I remember when he joined, he was like, I got a grant. I have a whole bunch of money. I have a friend gave me a house in Vermont. I have nothing to do for 6 months except write this book. I'm like, you're the guy. That's the dream. But we've gotten about another 1,500 authors through this process, even with the pandemic, without that. And we are very excited to introduce you to 12 of our newest authors. We're going to actually talk about 18 books we're launching today. We're excited to share the links with you to those books. They are all of our brand new books are completely free. And then we've got a few books that are available now for the first time on Audible. So if you did not get the books before, you get a chance to get them on audiobooks if you're one of those people. You know, a lot of people want to write a book and they don't get it done. And I have found there are three things. Actually, I found this, but today I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts, Planet Money, and they had a behavioral psychologist on there. And my big discovery, this behavioral psychologist had already done a big study on. So these are the things me and Planet Money say you need to do to get a book done. The first thing is have skin in the game. So make a financial investment, and there are lots of different ways to do that. But the behavioral psychologist talked about the strategy behind that. The next thing is to have a system, and a system with deadlines, because work expands to fill time. So you got to have skin in the game, you got to have a deadline, and then you have to have the third thing, which, as far as I know, we are the only book company that does this piece of it, and that is community. And what the behavioral psychologist talked about specifically was being seen, being viewed, the other, having somebody watch you, and the difference between saying I'm writing a book alone in your room, hello, I'm looking at you, and telling people I'm going to write a book. So you spend a lot of time in this community and with these authors. How do you see them supporting each other? How do you think the community works to keep our success rates so high?
I love that you're saying this because it's true. When you say you're going to do something and you haven't told anyone, there is no accountability. When you join the program, you automatically have admitted, my goal is to write a book. And now everyone in the community knows your goal by default. So it's kind of like not only is a coach holding space for you, but everyone is holding space for you to finish your book and your work in the time you committed to do it. So no one is assuming you're not going to fail or not complete. Everyone's assuming you're going to finish. You might have in the background a little bit of fear, like I'm going
to be the one that doesn't finish.
Yeah, but everyone else is now holding you accountable. So it just kind of makes everyone track along. And that's how we have such a high success rate, because everyone is holding space for success and completion only.
Yeah, it's so powerful. Well, I'm excited for you guys to meet these authors today. If you are thinking about writing a book and wondering what it'll be like, I think you'll get some ideas. And more than that, if you have any of the problems that these books solve, today is the day to get them. They're totally free. I ask that you make a commitment as a member of this community to download at least one of these books, but download them all, and to share at least one of these books with one person. And I know for sure there is someone in your life who will love this first book. So Ramses, I want you to come back and chat with some of the authors. I am going to talk right now. Stop worrying about your bladder leaks, the guide to overcoming urinary incontinence. Here she is, Sheila Whiteman. Hello.
Hi, Dr. Angela. How are you?
How are you?
I'm fabulous.
So this is I love this book. I love the work you do. And I want to talk about your background, who you serve, and who this book is for. But anyone who loves a woman over 50 knows the problem of bladder leaks. I remember being begged not to make my mother laugh for most of my life. Don't make me laugh was the most common statement in our house. And it's such a prevalent problem, and there's an answer. That's what I think is so amazing about your work. So let's talk about this book and your work in general.
Yeah, so I'm a pelvic health physical therapist, and one of the things that we do is to help people reduce and actually eliminate their bladder leak. One of the few things that we do. And but so many people don't know that. So it was really fascinating to me once I really started focusing on this population, that many people think that bladder leaks are just a normal sign of aging, or just something that is going to happen that you cannot do anything about. And that is so not true. So for me, I picked this crusade to go ahead and try to educate everyone on that particular fact, and also how you can eliminate or reduce your bladder leaks. So I really felt that that was something that was important for me to get out.
So I mentioned women over 50, but can you talk about what does the population look like? There's probably more than that. Is there a bigger age range, men, women? What's it look like?
Mm-hmm. So that's really a good question, because, and that kind of pivots into why I wrote the second book. This is actually my second book. The first book that I wrote was basically a program on how to reduce your bladder leaks. But the questions that I got were, why am I leaking and I'm pregnant? Why am I leaking and I'm in menopause? Why am I leaking while I'm exercising? So in order to answer the rest of those questions, that's why I just came out with just a little bit more information, because it's a lot more common than you think. At any given time, up to 50% of the population, I'm speaking primarily America, has an issue with bladder leaks. And we treat children, it's a pediatric issue also, but the problem just gets progressively worse especially if you have bladder leaks when you cough, laugh, sneeze, etc., when you're younger, because your body, of course, changes. And as it changes, certain things happen where it makes it a little bit more easy for a few drops to come out. And then sometimes those few drops become a little bit more concerning, and even more drops.
And you mentioned in America, is that just because you don't have stats on other countries, or is this less of a problem in other places?
It is less of a problem in other places. So in general, the stats are between 30 and 40 million people worldwide have the issue. But some countries actually, and that's the case with many conditions actually, they don't have the same issues that we have. Their diets are different. Their activity levels are different. And as you know, here in America, we have an abundance of food, and we also eat things that sometimes we really shouldn't eat, that other countries don't even eat.
I had
So,
no idea that was connected. I thought you were going to tell me they just did a lot more Kegels in other countries or something.
no. It has something. Some countries don't drink sodas. They don't drink carbonated drinks. And I don't want to bounce between two books, but in the first book, I actually talk about foods that affect your bladder, because there are certain foods that make you more prone to have leakage, and everybody doesn't drink those.
Wow. Well, learning things every day from you, Sheila. So you mentioned this is your second book. You've written about 2 books in a year and a half or so. There was a pandemic. I assume other than a pandemic and writing 2 books, you've been laid on a couch somewhere, relaxing, nothing else going on in your life.
Oh, so you have jokes today. So no, I actually own a home care agency, and now I'm in the process of selling that home care agency. So there is always a lot going on in my life. I've actually started a business from the books, and that does actually take time also, doing a couple certifications. So my life is really very, very busy. But I was able, like you said, to write 2 books. And let's not forget, I got an audiobook that was put in the middle of that also. So very productive year for me as an author. Very productive.
And what do you think? A couple questions we get from people a lot. How much time will this take? So share a little about your schedule. And then what do you think made it possible to squeeze in getting 2 books written with everything else going on?
My schedule was dictated by the fact that we were given tasks to do. So I think you even talked about a little bit about this in the introduction, where you really have to have deadlines, and you have to put your foot to the fire if you are really serious about doing what you have committed to do. And also the fact that you do put this into the universe. So from the to-dos that we had, I just had to schedule my time, because I knew chapter 1 was due on this date, and it had to be placed in Basecamp is what we use. So in our program, so that I could continue to move on. Also the beauty of this is that you do a lot of pre-work. So when it comes to actually writing your book, you know who you're writing the book, why you're writing the book, the who, why, where, what. You know all of that. And you're able to write your book a lot smoother because all of the background work is done. So for us, a lot of the words the words kind of start to flow.
So I saw your first book in the background. Do you have a copy of your new book as well? I want to share it with people.
I do have a copy of my new book. I do. Stop worrying about bladder leaks. Stop worrying about them, for real.
I love it. Your first book, To Pee or Not to Pee, already an international bestseller. This book, Stop Worrying About Bladder Leaks, The Guide to Overcoming Urinary Incontinence, sure to be a bestseller as well. If you're watching and you love someone who has this problem, please get them a copy of this book. Thank you so much, Sheila, for being with us today.
Thank you, Dr. Angela.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Our next author is the author of Unleash Your Power Through Reiki, the guide to this energetic healing art. And if you have ever been through a challenge that ended up somebody sending you Reiki or you going to a Reiki practitioner, you know how powerful Reiki can be. Please welcome our resident Reiki practitioner, Allison Brown. Hello.
Hi, Dr. Angela. How are you today?
How are you?
I'm wonderful.
Good. So let's talk, as I hold my newest crystal here, let's talk first of all about energy healing. What is that? Because a lot of people don't even know what Reiki is. And I want to get into what the book is, but let's kind of go up 30,000 feet and let's talk about what's energy healing.
Energy is everywhere. It is flowing through us, to us, around us. If you've ever bumped into somebody who's like, and just was like, oh, because they were in a really bad mood, you've run into energy. So what Reiki is just a way to channel that energy with focus and intent. It's really simple, actually, at its base.
Yeah, it's so interesting because it sounds, or can sound, I think, to the uninitiated as something super woo-woo. But even when I talk about crystals, it's like, I don't think the crystal has some magic in it, but I think when you have it, it connects you to the things associated with it.
The metaphysical
So
properties.
I think we use energy all the time. You can feel it when you walk in a room, or some of our expressions, like when you walk into a room and it's like everyone's all uncomfortable, that's just energy.
It is.
Or when you walk into a room and it's like cheers and everyone's like Cliffy, like that's just energy. So I think this stuff is so much more accessible. And that's one of the things I really like about your work, Unleash Your Power Through Reiki. Why don't you tell people about this book and why you wrote it?
Well, like you said, there is so much information out there about it, and everybody, well, a majority of people think it's something that is far-reaching, something that they can't do. But that's not the case, because it's around us and within us, and we use it without even thinking about it. And really, I wrote this book like as the book I wish I had as I started my journey, to kind of fill in the gaps and give an idea or overview of all the things involved within it.
Now, when people learn Reiki, I know there's a lot to memorize. There's a lot of different systems. Do you go through the different systems? How would you compare this book, say, to taking a Reiki class?
Honestly, if you're interested in taking a Reiki class, this is the perfect book for you, because I go over different kinds of Reiki you can learn, what the processes are throughout learning at different levels. And there is a lot to learn, but if you're applying it every day, it makes it so much easier to learn. So it makes it more like, driving a car, you know how to do it after you do it for a while. So,
or like writing a book.
There you go.
Which you spent the last 18 months with us. This is your second book. Two very different books. We talked to Sheila a minute ago, who had two books that were closely related. One was sort of part two. For you, you have a breadth of knowledge and interests, and you really took a different angle here. What for you has been the biggest personal change to being an author? How has being an author changed you?
Wow, how hasn't it changed me is a more accurate question. Sharing, stepping up to sharing my experiences, my knowledge, just opening up to not only giving that, but receiving, like being part of this journey with the Author Incubator has been amazing, because I have been able to open up and receive as I give. And I think that makes all the difference.
Well, I've watched that. And for me, the thing I've observed is just your confidence going through the roof. I remember when you started, getting on video seemed like a crazy idea. And now I see you on video all the time. And so many ways, just personally, that I've seen more of you come out. So much less hiding and so much more showing up in all of your quirkiness, like all
That's
of
right.
your originality, and really owning that. And I love that about you.
Thank you.
So let's show people, because you have a beautiful cover for Unleash Your Power Through
Make
Reiki.
sure it wasn't upside down.
There it is, tapping into all that chakra magic there. Unleash Your Power Through Reiki, the guide to this energetic healing art by Allison L. Brown. Allison, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Well, you've met two authors, and now I have a third two-time author to share with you. And what I love about these interviews is you saw Sheila, who wrote two books that were kind of like part one, part two. Allison's first book is about grief. Her second book is about Reiki, really just going through all of her experience and interests and writing different books on different topics. Now, with our third author, you're going to see another way that you could put together a book project, and that is with a series. So with book 2 in the Be Strong, Be Wise series is Amy Carpenter. Be Strong, Be Wise, 5 Easy Steps to Discussing Sexual Ethics with Teens. I'm going to bring her on now. Hello, Amy Carpenter.
Hello, Dr. Angela. Thank you so much for letting me talk about this new book.
Yes, thank you for being here. So you are the creator of the Be Strong, Be Wise series. Before we get into this new book about sexual ethics with teens, let's talk about your mission. What is the Be Strong, Be Wise mission? Why does this exist?
That's a great question. So my mission is really to create a language for discussing sexual ethics that isn't scary or overwhelming, but feels really conversational and down to earth and meets young people where they're at. Book 1 is written to and for young people, and also meets caring adults where they're at in book 2, which allows parents and counselors a roadmap for how to talk about safety, how to talk about building healthy boundaries, building inner authority in a way that builds confidence in teenagers and kind of, let's the adults release their fear around the subject.
Yeah, I would like to never talk about this with my child, for the record, if that would be possible. It's all
You're not alone.
very awkward. And we definitely need guides to make it easier. Let's talk about your background, why you, and how did you come to take on this mission?
Sure. Well, I'm a psychotherapist and a relationship coach, and I've done a lot of youth advocacy work throughout my career. And I was working with survivors. I've always primarily worked with survivors of sexual assault. And which, when you work with survivors, you learn very quickly that the statistic around the age range for most people who experience this type of sexual violence is young adulthood. And I realized after the Kavanaugh hearing and seeing a lot of the clients that I was working with go through kind of a re-traumatization, they were visibly upset in session, dealing with the Kavanaugh hearing and the results of that on the heels of the Me Too movement. And then shortly after that, somebody really close to me was sexually assaulted. And I finally realized, I've spent enough time in my career responding to assault, and it's time to think about doing something to prevent it. And that's how the whole mission began. So
it's so powerful, because we're at a point in life and in the world where there's so many problems. Pick any, the environment, like I've been talking about drug overdose, there's health issues, quality of food, pick an issue. Right. But I think so often we look around and we think one of the adults in the room is going to solve it. Maybe the president or a congressperson, or I don't know, Elon Musk, like somebody who has their shit together is clearly going to solve it. What am I going to do? one of the ways I define a difference maker is somebody who is willing to say, I'll hold up my part of the sky. It's not everything. I can't solve all the problems, but here's one thing I could make a dent in. Here's something I could do something about. And that's what you've done here. And it's so much easier to just, I mean, you could just have a one-on-one therapy practice. You could just get a job. Like, you could be a social worker. There's so many easier things you can do than this. But I just really want to honor that and say that's like, it's a powerful decision. And maybe it's one, I don't know. Do you feel like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but do you feel like you had a choice, or do you feel like this chose you?
Oh, I definitely feel like it chose me. Yeah. And how I met you and how I started working with the Author Incubator felt very, very serendipitous and like a gift. And it's continued to feel that way. And the more that I have conversations with adults, the more that I talk to young people and teach the course. I have a course that I'm offering to youth organizations and families and schools that offers this 5-step curriculum to young people. And of course, now with the second book, I have a companion program for caring adults and for schools. And it's amazing to hear young people say, like, I want to talk about this, and nobody's talking about this. And I want to learn how to separate myself from sex in the media and peer pressure and everything that our young people are seeing on their screens every day, and navigating really with their friends, and not with enough opportunity to kind of step away from the noise and figure out how to separate themselves and find out who they are.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah.
Let's show people the cover of this book, book number 2. Here it is. Oh, hold on. Yep, that side. There we go.
Yeah.
Here, I'll give you the whole screen.
Thank
so we can
you.
get it on there. Be strong, be wise. 5 easy steps to discussing sexual ethics with teens by Amy R. Carpenter. Amy, congratulations.
Thank you so much, Dr. Angela.
Thank you. Well, you've seen 3 different ways to approach writing multiple books. And now is when I break the news to you. Writing books is like getting a tattoo. You will not stop at one. Ramses, my co-host, didn't. He's already on book number 2. Book number 3, I know, is percolating. And Ramses, I'm going to let you talk to a few more of our authors who have come back for seconds.
I am so excited to introduce you to some new and some other authors that you're going to be meeting today. Just like Amy was saying, and I love that, she's in this space of doing something ahead of time. And this author, the author of Turn Back Your Biological Clock, Your Ultimate Guide to Better Health and Longevity, is just like that. I want to bring on the author of this book, Turn Back Your Biological Clock. I want to bring on Dr. Duncan McCullum. Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Right. I love this title, and I want to dig into it with you a little bit, because Turn Back Your Biological Clock, you and I have talked about it quite a bit, but what exactly do you mean, turn back your biological clock? It says health and longevity. Let's unpack that a little bit.
Sure. Well, this is kind of appropriate. This book comes out today because tomorrow I turn 65.
Oh.
So there's a lot of thank you. There's a lot of other people in this age bracket that have worked very hard. They've, just been trying to get ahead. They've been trying to reach their goals. And then they wake up one day to realize that their health is not where it should be. 80 million Americans are suffering from chronic diseases, multiple chronic diseases, and half of the country is either diabetic or pre-diabetic. And right road that people take is often to not really addressing the problem. We just came through 9 or 10 months of this incredible epidemic where everybody's worried about getting their immune system strong. And really, the real goal of getting your immune system strong is to get your body healthy from the inside out. We know
Right.
that chronic inflammation, any book you pick up on disease talks about chronic inflammation causing chronic disease. And we know that the cause of chronic inflammation is toxins in your body that we accumulate in the environment. And if we can help our bodies turn back some of those chronic diseases, our immune system goes up for one, which is what we all want to have happen. So really, we can turn back in some of these comorbidities that are making people more susceptible. So in my book, I go through several processes. Your body up at a cellular level. We start with, so many people have leaky gut syndrome. I think the statistics are 95% of us have some sort of leaky gut. So we start with cleaning that up, getting into the intermittent fasting and ketogenic diet done correctly, and then actually start to pull toxins out of the body through various methods, and then ultimately out of the brain, because lead and mercury hang out in our brain and disrupt all our hormones. And hormones really control our body. So this book walks you through it.
Right. I like that. And I happen to be a fan of your work because this is actually your second book with us.
Yeah.
The thing I wanted to dig into here a little bit more has to do with the health and longevity of a person. You mentioned that there's a lot of things that this book tells you. It disseminates a lot of processes and ways to do get your body healthy. What kinds of things are you able to do if you are taking care of your body this way at 60, 65? What kinds of things for the person who is turning back their biological clock using these processes and protocols? What kind of things can they do versus the person who has not done these protocols in a healthy way?
Well, quite honestly, I just finished a 21-day challenge with about 150 people online. And the very interesting part of it is mainly we changed the diet in that 21 days. We got people off of the sugar, off of the bad carbs, only eating 3 meals a day. And then we finally got them down to a couple meals a day in a ketogenic lifestyle. And one patient came up to me on day 14 and said, this isn't working for me. I only lost 9 pounds so far. Go, what? And I bought her a 10-pound bag of flour. And I said, here, I'll give you your 10 pounds. And that kind of opened her eyes. But that was only by diet. And then when you start to add in various ways to pull the toxins out of the body and heal the gut, 60% of our energy goes to digesting our food. So if we're constantly eating, we have no energy left to heal our body. So by eliminating meals, going into intermittent fasting, eating the right kind of foods, especially good healthy oils that get us burning the alternate fuel called ketones, which our brain loves because our brain's made of fat, then we can actually start this process. But it's all laid out in the book, and it's been really fun to write the second one with you guys. So really appreciate your help.
Absolutely. It's been an amazing journey with you, Duncan. Dr. McCullum, I want to ask you, though, being a busy practitioner, because you're still practicing, how did you find that time? And specifically, I want to know, with us here at the Author Incubator, you just ran a 150-person challenge. You're running your practice. You're still practicing. How did you, and how did our work here with you help you get these 2 books out in like a year? Tell us about your experience.
Yeah, prior to meeting you, I'd written 4 historical fiction books, and those just poured out of me because they were so much fun. I started typing. I go, I wonder what happens next, and it would take however long it took, and I had fun. And when I first met Dr. Angela, I went, I wonder what it's like to really write a book. I want to get the structure down. I want to understand, how I could actually improve in my writing. So when I signed up with you guys and I had an X amount of time to do the book, I was a little bit startled. It actually worked out really well. And that's my first book was New Hope for Sciatica. And then when I really started to embrace the pandemic, I decided to write the second book And the cool part about it, with the help of my managing editor, who is amazing, I came up with the Turn Back Your Biological Clock. But what I decided to do was to merge the fiction story with the science to make it more readable and more easy to understand than having just a clinical book. So I take you through a journey of a story of an individual that woke up one day finding that he wasn't doing very well and went through the process of getting himself healthy. So with your help, I was able to merge those two and get them out in a short period of time.
Duncan, I love that. Listen, if you guys want to turn back your biological clocks, this is the book for you. It's the ultimate guide to better health and longevity. You heard how it affects your body and how later in life it affects your longevity and, of course, quality of life, I'm assuming. So go ahead and show them your cover one more time, Dr. McCullum. This is for you. Go ahead and download the book and go ahead and share it with someone who you think is going to benefit from turning back their biological clock as well. Thank you so much, Dr. McCullum.
Thank you.
You heard that. You heard it well. Now I want to bring on someone in another clinical realm. This is the author of Clinical Retention Strategies, the Healthcare Executive's Guide to Leading Through the Storm and Keeping Your Vital Staff. Welcome, Dr. Karen Wade. How are you?
I'm having a great day. Thanks, Ramses.
Amazing. I'm so excited to just dig in about your book. I mean, look at the times we're in, and I could imagine that healthcare retention is a thing. There's stress, people are burnt out, and I don't want to give too much away, but tell us what you mean about this clinical retention strategies. How is this actually a problem, and what can people do about it?
Well, my first book was a book called Career Clarity for Nurses. And so I've been working with nurses really intensely for the past year and a half. And so pretty plugged into what's going on with nurses. But then as the pandemic hit, we were hearing about doctors having so much stress and respiratory therapists. And so collectively, healthcare clinicians are really in a crucible at this time. And there's a lot of them are leaving the field. And so I started thinking about the actual healthcare leaders, the administrators, the directors of nursing, who are really worried about, well, they're legitimately worried about their people, but also like their worst nightmare is waking up in the morning and their staff is gone, not having enough people to take care of the people in their hospital. So I wrote the book about clinician retention strategies because for them it's layers of concern, right? It's like they're concerned about their patients, they're concerned about their people, and probably the last person they're thinking about is themselves. And as they're kind of trying to be in the service of finding enough beds, enough ventilators, enough nurses, enough doctors, enough PPE, I mean, how can there possibly be enough of all that in a world where all this was scarce? So I wanted to reach out to them to think about taking care of themselves, getting kind of grounded and anchored in what they need themselves and taking care of their own resilience. But then also taking that further and how you can reach more deeply into the hearts and minds of your clinicians who are really kind of at the edge and thinking about leaving.
I like that you are talking about this, such an important conversation to be had, because no leader, especially in healthcare, is thinking, I want my staff to disappear, right?
No.
Imagine it's two ways, right? The staff also wants to feel good at work. I mean, I was a pre-med, most people don't know this, but no people joining this field join it without wanting to help at some point. They all want to make some kind of impact and difference. And the fact that the dream job you wanted to have somehow gets overwhelming and makes you want to leave, I'm sure two ways. The practitioners don't want to make that decision, and neither does the actual team writing it. I want to get into your process writing the book, though, because as a busy person, as you had to be talking to people, practicing, how exactly was getting these 2 books out, specifically this one as well? What kind of challenges came up for you, and how did the process help you get the book done despite all the lifing you were doing in the background?
Right. And I mean, kind of in the midst of this, I also started a nonprofit to help, called Nurse to Nurse Network, to have seasoned nurses being helping, the people who are on the front lines to have a sounding board. So I was getting a lot of input from them for sure. But what helped so much, other people have talked about this too, is the deadlines. I'm not sure what would have happened without the deadlines. Probably not much. Another thing that I was really grateful for is that, having been in academia for so long, that I have never turned in a paper that wasn't, the first time turning it in, at least decent. It's like, so I had to really give that up to be able to get a book out in a short amount of time. And so the Author Incubator gave me permission to just write a crummy first draft. And I had kind of done quite a bit of research for this book before writing it, and I was pulling together concepts and just kind of coming up with new ideas that I had never thought of before to bring these different concepts together. So the first draft was like, boy, at least I got it out, but that was kind of really a revolution in my usual process. But if I didn't have the experience of the value of just getting out your initial thoughts, I would have been stuck and not been able to produce this book. So the first draft wasn't good, but the editor was fantastic in helping me kind of shape it from there on.
I love that. I think your writing your book has been an amazing one. Show us the cover of your book. Let's go ahead and see your second book with us. There you guys have it. It's Clinician Retention Strategies. I'm going to let you show it off. There you go. And it is the healthcare executive guide to leading through the storm and keeping your vital staff. So thank you so much for being here with us today. Congratulations on your second book.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for your assistance and support.
Oh, yeah, it's been a pleasure. That was Dr. Karen Raid. Amazing journey. You can hear author says life kept lifing. She was no exception. And now I want to pivot a little bit from talking clinical and let's get into some love. I'm going to bring on the author of Building Relationships That Last with Frida Wilson. Welcome, Frida.
Thank you. You made me think of a song when you said, let's talk about love. And I thought about this song, When Love Calls, You Better Answer.
Yes, and that's why I have you here. She is the love queen herself. Listen, I love this. It's called Building Relationships That Last to Mutually Fulfilling Love. Yeah, I feel like this has a lot of your work and personality embedded in it. Tell us about your book. Let's just go right in because it is juicy stuff.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, my book, of course, as you said, Building Relationships That Last, is geared toward an individual who's having trouble in their relationship and they're looking for a solution. Or if you're dating and you just find yourself dating the wrong person every single time. Well, I wrote this book with you in mind. You know, no one gives us a manual or a Bible when we start dating or when we get married. We just kind of jump in there and hope it all works. And unfortunately, we end up with heartbreak after heartbreak.
Frida, if you come up with a manual, please send it my way. Currently in the dating scene, and it is sometimes not so very fun. So I feel that. I do know that you were saying that if you're in a relationship, and you're having some kind of problems, this is the book for you. Tell us what what kind of conflicts you address? What kinds of things are going wrong, as you said, in a relationship that would make someone want to pick up your book?
Well, in a relationship, one of the things I talk about is people who are having communication problems or compatibility problems. And I give some tools and nuggets on some of the telltale signs that your marriage or your relationship is in trouble based on how you communicate. And so we address and help you work through any type of communication that's not going well, any type of,
sometimes communication feels really hard to
like that.
Sometimes communication feels hard to understand. What does that even mean? Like argument or just not talking? Are those both communication issues?
Absolutely, because one way when you talk about not talking is called stonewalling. And so basically the person has pretty much shut down and they're just, ignoring the person and they just go on about their business. The other way could be where it's volatile and there's just a lot of screaming and hollering and maybe some condemning from the other party, or sometimes there's contempt in the relationship. And that's when one party makes themselves the authority and the other person is diminished. And so I talk about how to get yourself out of those type of communication ruts and to start talking in a regular way. And what I point out in the book is communication is really what's on the surface, but the problem is really underneath. And so the goal is to determine what the real issue is so that you can start talking better. Another thing that I address in the book is sexual incompatibility and what you can do to fix that situation. So I've got some really good nuggets in there. I talk about forgiveness. I teach people how to get through all of that. So the book is really geared toward helping people choose wisely and helping people build the relationships through some strategic tools that I've set forth in the book.
I love that. I mean, relationships can be super dense, and I think your book is so amazing and perfectly timed because in the time of this being at home all the time, you're kind of in confrontation now with your relationships in a way that you haven't had to address them. There's more time than ever to see these little conflicts or these desires kind of arise. I love that your book is actually kind of inspiration and has a hopeful ending. The guide to mutually fulfilling love. I love that about your book.
Absolutely.
Speaking of which, as we know, these relationships can be time consuming. How did you manage writing this value-packed book for these couples, people who want to be in couples, during your time here with us? Life, like I said, it's the theme of my work. Life keeps lifing. So how did your life? And how did we help you accomplish this book?
Well, one of the things I really love about the process that you all have put in place is you instructed me on how to even start writing. I've always wanted to write a book, and this is my second book I've written with you all. And you all gave me the know-how to start writing. And it was such a beautiful process because it was step by step by step. And by the time I got to writing the rough draft, it just kind of flowed right on out because I had all the building blocks. And life did get in the way. My husband was sick and just, we're in the pandemic and trying to juggle and do everything. But the process that you all have in place is precept upon precept. And so you're able to really stay focused and get things accomplished where everything stays continuous or there's continuity. And then the editors you all use to help us make sure that, things are structured and flowing properly. So the entire process is absolutely amazing.
Amazing. And I'll make sure I'll let the editors know you gave them a little shout out there. We love it. Let's go ahead and show them the cover of your book. If you are in a position where you're in a relationship, you have some things coming up and you want to address them in a mutually fulfilling way, go ahead and grab your copy of Building Relationships That Last, the Guide to Mutually Fulfilling Love. Thank you so much, and congratulations, Frida.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to hand the baton over to the amazing co-host and main host here at the Author Incubator. I'm bringing Dr. Angela Aloria back on the line because we have more people to show you, more authors, more magic, and more difference making.
We do. We've got a few more authors to share, and I think it's always so powerful to hear these stories. So thanks for highlighting those authors. I'm going to share with you some first-time authors. Maybe you're thinking, well, those people have written 2 books. They must be naturals. I promise you they're not. There's a process, and the process works. And I'm going to prove it by sharing some of our newest authors with you. The first one is the author of A Jesus I Can Follow. Do I Leave the Church or Do I Stay? Sue Williams. Hi, Sue. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Well, I know we spent a while talking about this title, A Jesus I Can Follow. What did that mean to you? How did we land on the title, and what's the book about?
I think landed on the title, it was a process because I really wanted to find folks that wanted to follow Jesus, but had been hurt by the church or were turned off by some of the things that happen in the institutional church, but they knew that they had a connection to Jesus. So the big problem for a lot of folks is, do I stay in the church or do I leave? How can I find that Jesus that I know I want to follow, that points us towards this God that loves all of us? And so I wanted to reach those folks.
So I was looking for my button to come back for this chat. So tell me your background. How did you come to write this book and have, I will say, as somebody, I grew up Catholic, I taught catechism, I like the songs. I'm still pretty attached to the songs. And there was a point where some of the BS of the Catholic Church it just got hard for me to reconcile being a part of that organization. And so I left, and maintaining that relationship with Jesus and with my faith and with the music, which is really what I went to church for, not going to lie. But it was hard to build that bridge. Looking at you, it looks like that was always easy for you. Like, it's hard to imagine you ever had that dilemma. So what's your story? How did you come to face this?
Well, I wanted to be an ordained minister when I was in high school. And, looking at me, you can imagine that in the late 60s, early 70s, in a small town in Kansas, I was told no, women cannot be ministers. And I thought, well, if I can't be a minister, I'm not going to do it. And so I did other things with my life. I had a business, I raised a family, always was in the church, but a lot of times in churches that were not kind to people. And so after I got my undergrad, I had a plan to get my master's in Native American Lit. I had the grades, everything was in place, but the doors just didn't open. So I finally said, fine, I will go back to seminary, but I will not be a parish minister. I will be a chaplain. And so I have struggled with the way the church treats people, the way the church treated me. In chaplaincy, we can meet people just exactly where they are on their spiritual journey. So some of my best conversations have been with atheists, with Wiccans, with people who are gypsies in Kansas. So that was an amazing, amazing journey, an amazing place to be. The problem with chaplaincy is nothing ever good happens that the chaplain gets called to.
Right. So, that's like somebody's dying or
there's been a horrible accident,
right,
gang fight, those kind of things. So I wanted to come back to this part of the country, and I had a choice, and I chose to come back to the parish. And I'm not sure that they got what they thought they were getting. they thought they were getting a nice little English major that would be just, nice.
Follow along.
Yeah, but what we've done here is really push and nudge and vision how we can be church in this new century. So it's been an amazing journey.
Wow, I love that story. So you came to us about 5 months ago now, not quite 6 months. And in that time, we came up with a book idea, got it written, got it edited, working on launching it and marketing it right now. What has this journey been like for you, and what has it meant to you to get this book done?
I've wanted to write a book since I was in the 3rd grade, and we just won't talk about how long ago that was. So coming to the Author Incubator gave me a framework. It gave me deadlines, and I am a huge procrastinator. So it gave me deadlines. It gave me the background work to get to the book. It gave me the support. It helped me realize I didn't have to write an academic paper. I know somebody else talked about that, but it's huge when that's all you've ever written. And y'all helped me really believe that I could get this book written in the midst of leading a church during COVID, learning all new technology, and working on my doctoral degree. So it works. It really works.
I love that. Well, we have loved working with you. I want to show people your beautiful book one more time. Here it is. A Jesus I Can Follow. Do I leave the church or do I stay? By Sue Williams. Sue, congratulations. We're so proud of you and this book and the difference it's going to make in the world.
Thank you.
Our next author is going to take us from the church to the street. We're going to start talking real estate, and there is probably no better year to talk real estate than 2021. Stephanie Jones is the author of Boss Lady Real Estate Agent. Show up, stand out, and rule the market like a girl. Hello, congratulations on this book.
Thank you so much, Angela. I'm so excited.
Well, there's never been a hotter time to be in real estate.
Very true.
I think there are a lot of people, I don't know, maybe worked as in theater, worked in the restaurant industry, worked in travel, and they're saying, well, it's going to be a while till my industry comes back. Maybe I should be a real estate agent. What do you think of choosing real estate as a career, and what is Boss Lady Real Estate Agent all about?
Well, I love that you asked about entertainers, restaurateurs, specifically because I have done all of those things in my past. I have sung for Cirque du Soleil and worked on cruise ships. So it's fun that you bring that up because I think it is such a great transition because customer service is so important in the world of real estate and also marketing. I mean, entertainers are the very best at marketing themselves, and it transfers perfectly into real estate. So my book specifically is about empowering women in the world of real estate, focusing on changing their mindset towards success. I want everyone that reads this book to find their motivation and their drive behind what they do, what I like to call my why. So that's pretty much your passion, your purpose in life. And I just want them to use that why to get toward the success that they deserve. So
there's probably a normal path that people take in real estate. They, I don't know, take the class, take the test, get assigned to a broker. What do you think are some of the common pitfalls or mistakes that stop, let's talk about women just because we can, that stop women from being boss ladies in real estate, and maybe they get handed the crappy open houses or they're waiting for walk-in clients? What's the difference between being a boss lady? What aren't they teaching people out there?
So I think the two most important pitfalls that you deal with when you start in real estate is one, education. So much into going to classes to learn how to be the best possible that they don't actually take the time to be the best agent possible. Real estate is learning from actually doing. And I think because women are all about, I want to be great initially, I want to be prepared. the best way to do it is just throw yourselves in. The second thing is going to be finding a mentor. Especially as a woman, finding a boss lady realtor who you trust, who you appreciate, and who you completely respect, and just following them. Watch their business model, learn from them, and even if you have to pay them to just follow them around for the day, do it. It is literally the best way to learn how to be the boss lady that you deserve to be.
Really good point that you just brought up. You said, watch their business model. I don't know. I thought all real estate business models were the same. Find sellers, sell houses. Are there different business models within real estate?
Well, there's a lot of different ways to get clients. So a lot of people do cold calling, knocking on doors. I tend to avoid those. A lot of my book has little fun ways to get around that. Like I use Facebook Marketplace. I buy little things on Facebook Marketplace and I keep in touch with those people to see if they ever need a real estate agent. And I've gotten listings off of that. So there's always different models on how to do things. And it's all about finding what's best for you. So
I love that. Nice little hack. Well, we love a hack, a more efficient way to get things done around here. And you got your book done in less than 6 months. So I wanted you to share your experience with the Author Incubator. What has it been like for you working with our team?
Well, I have never in my life wanted to be. It kind of just fell in one day. And then the day after, I saw one of your commercials and I was like, I have to apply for this. I don't know why, but it's the moment. It's what I need. And then from there, I figured out the community that you all put together is absolutely exceptional. The support system, and then the process. I am a to-do list girl, and y'all's to-do list is on point. I love it. But I do have to do a specific shout out to my editor, Natasha. My goodness, she is like a soulmate of mine. Whoever put us together, I am extremely thankful. She has been a guiding light and she has pulled me out of so many ruts. You all are so lucky to have her, and I was so blessed to have her.
I love it. Well, Natasha and I have a fun backstory because we have a shared best friend. We have the same best friend. We argue over her, who is the better best friend, but we split responsibilities. So
that is so funny. And I have a side note on that too. One of my best friends is from Novi Sad, Serbia.
Really?
That's where she is from.
Yes.
How crazy.
That is where our best friend is from too. So we got the Serbian hookup. That means we're going to be eating well. Now we just need to get some planes to take us, and we will go to Exit Festival in Novi Sad. It'll be fun.
Tell me when.
I love it. Well, let's show people your book one more time because it's such a great cover. Boss Lady Real Estate Agent. Show up, stand out, and rule the market like a girl. Stephanie Jones, congratulations on your book.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Our next author is going to take us from the business of real estate to breaking out of the corporate mindset and starting your own dream business. She is the author of The Fearless Entrepreneur, Clarissa Romero. Hello.
Hello, Dr. Angela. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Some days I feel like a fearless entrepreneur, and some days it just feels scary as all heck. So let's talk about this book. Why did you write it, and who is it for?
Absolutely. Well, I wrote this book for anyone and everyone out there that's feeling very unfulfilled and stuck at work, because that was me some years ago. And a lot of times when you're in that state, you're creating meaning in your work life. And somewhere deep inside, you know, you have a higher calling. Maybe you even have a secret of starting your own dream business, but you feel it may be too late, or you're just so stuck and unclear like me that I just felt that it was not possible. So those individuals out there that feel stuck, which according to statistics, 85% of folks in the workforce feel very unsatisfied in the workforce. So that's a lot of people. So I guess I wasn't alone, as alone as I felt.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was in corporate, I couldn't wait to get out. And then when I had my own business, I remember saying this. One day it snowed, and I was like, it occurred to me that working in corporate, somebody else was in charge of plowing the parking lot. Somebody else was in charge of plunging the toilets. Somebody else was in charge of vacuuming the rug. And I realized all those things from my corporate career that I just took for granted. And there are so many things about starting a business. I think a lot of us think about, having the restaurant, or we think about having the florist and how pretty the flowers would be, but you're not thinking about getting the driveway paved or plunging toilets or taking out the trash. There's so many things that make people want to quit on the road of entrepreneurship. What's the opposite of that? I think people talk about resilience or grit. What's your number one tip for grit or resilience?
Absolutely. And we hear so much about grit and resilience. I mean, I use the word resilience all the time, but a lot of times we're not taught what resilience is and how to achieve it. And that's a perfect segue to really understand what my book is about, because a lot of times when you hear a title like my book, you may think it's going to show you how to get your domain or those drier topics of starting a business, get your LLC and get your finances and all these things and structures about starting a business. But my book is focused on the mindset that an entrepreneur and a small business owner needs to have in order to succeed, because that's what's missing. That's the secret sauce that's missing from businesses that fail. It's really your mindset, how your brain is programmed, and knowing that we can reprogram it, knowing how to do that, which is what I had to do, because I was definitely not a fearless entrepreneur several years ago. So it's something that I had to cultivate and program once I knew that our brain is plastic. There's like the new science behind neuroplasticity, not to use all this jargon, but really, we have so much power that we don't know. And so to be able to understand that anyone can be successful, they really put their mind to it. And to put your mind to it, it means that there are certain steps that you have to take to prime your brain to be that fearless entrepreneur, to have a thriving and successful business. It's all about the mind, which is my slogan: a healthy mind leads to a successful life.
I love that. Well, a healthy mind is required to get your book done as quickly as you got your book done. All of the books that people have been seeing today are free. You can find all the links on the website. We will email them out to people. I hope they are going to share your book. I want to talk about your journey as an author. So what did it take to get your book out, and how was the Author Incubator a part of that journey?
Amazing that you asked that, because I'm all about hacks. Obviously, I'm talking about how to hack your brain. And that was what was so surprising and captivating about my experience with the Author Incubator and the team. The amount of hacks that I received. I am not a procrastinator. I am, as a matter of fact, I have a mindful planner that keeps me very well in track. So that was not an issue for me. My issue was getting out of my own way of writing this book. Not being a perfectionist, which was something that Ramses was constantly working with me on, that mindset of being a perfectionist, which kept me stuck from writing my book. But also, I will share that it's so interesting. The hacks that actually you, Angela, gave me was that if you're struggling to write your book and you get stuck, one of the ways to avoid writer's block is to speak your book. So I'm one of those authors that actually spoke my book. That was one of the tricks that I learned thanks to you guys. And another one was I use essential oils in my business and in my life. But one day when you were giving tips in one of the trainings, you rubbed it in your hands and you smelled it before starting to write. I did that every single time. I would put drag in and I would set my timer. I did the essential oils and I basically channeled every single chapter. It was crazy. I would close my eyes and I would speak until the timer went off. And that's how my book got written.
I love those. Those are some of my favorite tips. And that is one of my little hacks. I always have my writing potion. I love it. It's a great one. Well, let's show people your book so they can see your gorgeous cover. This is free right now on Amazon. It's The Fearless Entrepreneur. Break Through the Corporate Mindset and Start Your Dream Business by Clarissa Romero. Clarissa, congratulations. We're so proud of you in this book.
Thank you so much.
Well, very excited for you to meet those authors who could be here. We have a bunch of authors who are not here. If you go to livefromtheauthorincubator.com, you can see all the links to all of the books. Nicole Van Bin's book, Unconventional Healing, The Ultimate Guide to Overcoming Fibromyalgia Symptoms, is perfect for people with fibromyalgia and controlling pain and energy. Vera Lurie's book is Drop the Diet, Drop the Weight, How to Stop Letting Deeply Hidden Body Image Issues Control Your Weight, Secrets to Permanent Weight Loss. Cynthia Lombardo is the author of Invention Protection Strategies, Expose Your Intellectual Property and Fund Your Startup. So if you are working on IP law, you will want to know Cynthia Lombardo. You can find her book. And if you're thinking about starting a business, Tyler John Buckler has the book Start It Now, and it is spelled IT, 8 simple steps to take your business from an idea take your business idea from a dream to a reality. He helps people start tech startups. So you can get the IP from Cynthia and get your business coaching from Tyler Buckler. We also have a powerful book from Julie Ann Ford. It's called From Borderline to Baseline, 9 Steps to Manage Your BPD and Start Loving Your Life Again. So if you have a loved one dealing with bipolar, it's a powerful book now on audiobook. And Donna Marie Cozine's book, So You Want to Be a Superintendent, Become the Leader You Were Meant to Be. Get on the fast track to becoming a school superintendent. Also on audiobook. So lots of new releases, new books that are out there on audiobook. Those authors couldn't be with us. But we do have some audiobook authors with us here. We've been talking a lot about getting your book written, getting it out there. Maybe you've been inspired by these authors. Maybe you want to know the steps for how we support authors. Maybe you want to know more of the hacks that you have heard about, or just how to promote a book that you already have out there. Or what you need to know about the Author Incubator is we're not looking for a big social media following. We're not even looking for the best writers. We are looking for people like the ones you have met today who have a mission and a passion and are not willing to let anything stop them from making the difference they were born to make. So if you want to take advantage of this moment, now is the time. You can go to theauthorincubator.com/apply or click the link over at livefromtheauthorincubator.com. And if you go to livefromtheauthorincubator.com, you'll see all the books, all the authors. You will see the links to their books on Amazon. And you will also be able to watch this replay there. So encourage you to do that and to apply if you want to learn more about the process and how it will work for you. I'm going to bring back my co-host, Ramses. We have 3 of our audiobook launchers who are here today. And what's fun about these guys is they were where the authors we've just met were about a year ago. So
Right.
they got their books done, and now it's about a year later. Their books are hitting bookstores. We have their audio books coming out. So what I thought we would do is let's bring all three of them on. I'll do a quick intro, and then you can chat with them about their books, and we'll have a little panel discussion about what it is like to be a best-selling author. And we'll hear a year in the life of these books and these authors. How does that sound?
That sounds like a lot of fun.
All right. Well, here is our esteemed panel for the day. And I am going to introduce you guys. I'll just have you wave and say a quick hello. The first person that Ramses will be interviewing is Dr. Veronica Anderson. She's the author of Too Smart to Be Struggling, the guide for overscheduled doctors to find happiness and make more money too. So hello, Dr. Veronica.
Hi, how are you?
I am fantastic. And our second author is the author of Death is Not Goodbye. Connect with Your Loved Ones Again, Kim Weaver. There she is. Hello, Kim.
Hello.
And our third author is the author of Outsmart Endometriosis, Relieve Your Symptoms and Get Your Career Back on Track, Dr. Jessica Drummond. Hello.
Hi, great to be here.
Well, it's good to have all three of you here. I'm excited you're here because we're going to have a little chat about being a best-selling author and what the last year has been like for you guys. So before we do that, I thought I would have you each spend a little time telling people what your book is about. If you are watching this and you know someone who is an overscheduled doctor, someone with endometriosis, or someone who wants to connect to their loved ones, these books are now all available on audiobook, and you can find those at livefromtheauthorincubator.com. We'll share a little about these books, and then we'll be back in a couple minutes, and I will have a little discussion about how your life changes when you become an author. So I will take my leave. Ramses will leave you here in good hands with Dr. Veronica, and then we'll be back for a little chat.
Dr. Veronica, I am so excited to introduce you all to Dr. Veronica. She's the author of Too Smart to Be Struggling, the guide for overscheduled doctors to find happiness and make more money too. Dr. Veronica, tell us what this book is about.
Today, doctors are really struggling, and everybody knows that, especially highlighted because of the pandemic. But it was like that before, and I know because I was struggling. I went through burnout, and I had those days where I wanted to kill myself, and there was nobody there for me. So I wrote this book for doctors because we need to have hope, and there are other ways to do it. And this has been just a wonderful piece in my life because I've been allowed to help other doctors get over that really tough hump in their life and have renewed vigor, like being able to write a book.
Yeah, I love that. I see that too, Dr. Veronica. I see a lot of doctors and nurses. I think we have a good understanding of what this might even look like. But what are the kind of signs that this is time to address before it gets worse? What is your physician looking at in terms of things happening in their life, that in their career and their practice, that should let them know, you know what, maybe I should just grab Dr. Veronica's book?
So people are going through a time where they're feeling hopeless, and a lot of doctors are feeling hopeless. And what really struck me is a doctor that ended up on the front of the New York Times because she got so hopeless, she committed suicide, and she had everything going for her. And that just touched me. I was just like, man, I wish that I could have gotten just a book in her hand so that she felt like there was something else that she could grab onto and do. So if you are feeling like hopeless and lackadaisical and like there's nothing else, and I did all this work and yet I'm not where I want to be and I'm not making a difference, that is a sign that, one, you need some mental health help. But second, you need a mentor who's been there, done that, who can also hold your hand and help lead you out of that state of being.
You know, I have talked to a lot of different doctors and physicians, and we had many of them write books here with us. And for you, I wanted to ask you, I could imagine, and after me speaking to a lot of these doctors, that there's a little bit of shame of thinking that you are overwhelmed. There's this sense that I should be grateful. I have the career everyone else kind of wanted me to have, or that I already had. Shame to admit that there might be some unhappiness there, because then they feel guilty for feeling like everything isn't right because they have everything everyone imagines them they would want to. So how is that playing out, and do you address this at all in your work or your book?
You just hit the nail on the head, because you feel shame for even complaining. And in medicine, you're supposed to have that suck it up way of being. And it doesn't work. So you walk around not wanting to say anything because you're afraid you're going to lose everything you worked for. And you're like, it's either death or suck it up. And you know you can't, neither one is a good option. So it's important to reach out to someone. A lot of times people don't necessarily always want to reach out to a mental health professional, but they need to reach out to someone who understands. And that's what this is all about. Yes, when I work with people, and I've met people who I thought were severely depressed, and I'm like, let's help get you help. Let's help get you help. And then after you get help, we can do something together. But because I was a safe space, they knew I went through it from reading the story in my book about what I went through. They also can see that there's hope on the other side. There's a way to get over this, but how do you do that? And that's what this book is about. It's about how to step back and figure out what is the next best thing that I should do to either figure out, should I stay in medicine, or is there another path for me? I felt like there was nothing else I could do. I was an eye surgeon walking around making almost $1 million a year part-time, and I felt like a fraud and a failure. And that's what we feel like. That's not who we are, but we feel that way.
I love that. This is hitting home because I have a lot of friends that are physicians. We have a lot of clients that are physicians, a lot of authors that are physicians and practitioners. And I just, especially seeing the amount of overload that they're going through right now, it's palpable. Even not being a physician myself, you can see the strain, and I can see that this work is so impactful. If this is you, if you're a physician, or if you want to gift this to your physician friend, I want you to go ahead and consider getting this book. It's Too Smart to Be Struggling, the guide for the overscheduled doctor to find happiness and make more money too, which is definitely important. Absolutely. If you have a cover, go ahead and show it to us. I'd like for you to share it. Yeah.
And this is now on, it's an ebook, it's a print book, and now on Audible. And so I know that I was busy and I feel like I don't have any time to listen. Now you can listen in your car on the way to your overscheduled job if you don't have time to read. Because I was finding the doctors were not having time to read the book. Now you can put it in your ear and listen.
Exactly. On that ride to the next 24-hour shift you've got going on, go ahead and throw it in on Audible. You can find it in print book, ebook, and definitely on audio, as Dr. Veronica said. Thank you so much, and congratulations.
Thank you.
I want to introduce you to the author of Death is Not Goodbye. This is Kim Weaver, and she is the author of Death is Not Goodbye. Connect with your loved ones once again. I want to go right into this. This is something that a lot of people, I mean, everyone who's alive has to experience this, or has maybe experienced this to some extent. Let's go ahead and talk about Death is Not Goodbye. What did you mean by that when you titled your book this way?
You know, I wanted for years to write a book to help people who are struggling with the loss of someone. I've been a psychic medium for years and years and years, and I'm sure you can imagine, as well as everyone listening, that in my line of work, people don't come to see me because their life is in a really good place. They typically come to see me because they are struggling with losing someone very close. And for me, it has been heartbreaking to see or speak with a parent who has lost a child, or someone who has lost someone to suicide, or even someone who has lost a spouse after being married for 30 or 40 years. It's a heartbreaking experience even for me. So that is why I wanted to write the book, is for all of those people who are struggling with the loss of someone close.
I love that. When someone has lost someone very, very close by, I want you to speak a little bit on what they're not saying, what they're going through secretly. Because I can imagine that we all can see someone lose a loved one, and we can see sorrow, sadness, etc. But I imagine there's a lot going behind closed doors secretly. What is life looking like, and how do they know that this book might help them?
I think a lot of people who come to see me, it's a lot of people are not necessarily open to connect to even the concept that when we pass away, we really don't go anywhere, that we're actually very much still around. We just don't have the physical body. And that can be from, maybe our upbringing as far as our religious views. It can be other people tell us we're crazy. And for years, people like me have stayed in the spiritual closet, fearful of what people will say about us or say about me and what I do. And I think other people struggle with that as well, that they want to know they're around, but they have a fear of, like, where do I go? Who do I talk to? I'm having these crazy experiences, and they question, are they really there, or am I making all this stuff up? And so then they come to see me for basically that validation.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And we've had authors write on connecting with their loved ones in the past. And it's such an important space because it feels like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like a lot of people associate healing with forgetting or moving on, when in fact it's not a necessary thing. So I love that you're able to continue relationships with someone who's passed in a very meaningful way, in a very real way, can maintain a relationship basically forever, which is a very nice gift that you're bringing onto the world. I want to go ahead and have them see the cover of your book. I want you to show it off. This is Death Is Not Goodbye. Connect with your loved ones once again. If you have suffered the death of a loved one, or someone close to you has, this is the book for that person or for you. It's available on audiobook, ebook, and now audiobook. It's ebook and print book as well. So if you are in that space and you need that support, it's easy. Now it's as easy as throwing on some earbuds and hearing Kim walk you through the life you can have with your loved one after they have left at least this version of the world. So I love that. Congratulations, Kim.
Thank you.
Now I want to introduce you the author of Outsmart Endometriosis. This is Dr. Jessica Drummond, and she is the author of Outsmart Endometriosis, Relieve Your Symptoms and Get Your Career Back on Track. Welcome, Dr. Drummond.
Thanks so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
I'm excited to dig right in because endometriosis, I actually have a very good best friend who has had this and has struggled with making decisions about whether to have children and all this battle. And I could imagine there's a whole world about this. I saw what she's gone through. Tell us a little bit about your book and what a day in the life of someone with endometriosis or having to deal with these things is like.
Yeah, so I wrote this book for women's health and wellness professionals and for their patients with endometriosis or complex pelvic pain conditions, which are very common, actually. Endometriosis affects 1 in 10 people with uteruses, so that's over 176 million people worldwide. And it's a very debilitating disease. And the challenge is that these symptoms present generally, just pre-puberty, somewhere between 8 and 12 years old, usually starts as digestive issues, fatigue, abdominal and pelvic pain, sometimes anxiety and depression. And it's often though sort of thought of as this like women's health, reproductive issue. So it's not always taken seriously, despite the fact that endometriosis lesions can present in the lung, on the knee, in the diaphragm. So commonly, someone will experience this, in that young pre-puberty time, but then as they're getting into high school, college, graduate school, first jobs, dating, that debilitating pain that can really take you out of your life, not to mention the other symptoms I mentioned, has a huge impact on these women's long-term life and career, because 74% of women who struggle with this disease at one point are sort of taken off of their career trajectory. And in fact, it's the number one reason that girls miss high school. So wow. It's a disease that we need more tools to address as practitioners. And that's why I've created such an integrative and holistic program, so we can help women through all these different life stages that this disease and similar pelvic pain or related pelvic pain conditions affect.
Wow, that's incredible. I'm blown away by these statistics that you're reporting here, because I only knew my best friend who just kind of said it, and very casually too. Do you think there's maybe a stigma or some barrier between communicating if someone has endometriosis? She casually mentioned it. I didn't know, and maybe I'll have a conversation with her now about this. How debilitating it is? Is there a stigma? Why is it so that women aren't getting the help that they need often enough?
Well, I think just like with any sort of chronic pain or chronic illness, there is a stigma, because it's not comfortable for people to talk about chronic pain and long-term, more long-term illnesses, because the expectation in our society is if you get sick, there's some kind of medication or treatment, then you're better. But with these kinds of conditions, it really takes a whole person approach, which often takes a multidisciplinary team over a longer course of time. And often women stop bringing it up because they've been dismissed or not really believed. It's very well documented in the literature that women's pain, especially people of color, is dismissed. And so after a while, if you're bringing it up over and over and over to different gynecologists, different physicians, the school nurse, and, teachers and, sports coaches, and even parents and friends, and people sort of don't want to hear it anymore. They think, why are you still talking about this? Isn't this better by now? People just kind of stop bringing it up, or they hide, and that's part of the isolation. If you have to show up for the SAT or a college interview or a job interview when you're having one of these challenging days, which can for some women be pretty unpredictable, you start to self-isolate more and more. So I think that's why you maybe just, it's not a fun topic of conversation.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, listen, if you're listening and before you start pulling away and before you start hiding and you've experienced these things or know someone who has, definitely grab a copy of the book, Outsmart Endometriosis, Relieve Your Symptoms, and Get Your Career Back on Track by Dr. Jessica Drummond. Listen, grab the book now. It's available now on print book, ebook, and now you can throw those headbuds right in your ear. Go ahead and show them that cover, and I'm going to let you showcase it because it is absolutely stunning. Outsmart Endometriosis by Dr. Jessica Drummond. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now I want to bring on Dr. Angela Loria, because now we get to hear from them and their experiences with the Author Incubator and their journey here. That was so much fun, Dr. Angela.
It was a trip down memory lane for me. So I'm going to bring these authors back, and I'm going to question them about their year. Let the interrogation begin. So thank you, Ramses, for those amazing interviews. Here is the panel. You guys were awesome. And as each of you were talking, I was remembering this year. I remember Veronica, when we first met in New York City, and Jessica sitting in that hot seat in Newport Beach. And when you joined us, Kim, and came out as our resident medium, and just watching how much so much has happened for all of us. This has been such a big year, but in your businesses, in your lives, in your health, in your relationships, there's so many things we've been through this year that when the journey of writing this book started, I know you probably pictured one thing. And so I want to ask each of you, just as an opening question for this panel, what is the highlight of your year plus now as an author? Kim, I'll start with you. Well, what's the best thing about being an author?
I think it's, for me, I have dreamed about writing a book for years. And part of it, my dream was because I wanted to help other people. And because of the Author Incubator, I wrote the book that I had always wanted to write. Then I'm almost done with book number 2. And I wrote a children's book that will be going into print very shortly. So, and my whole life it has changed my whole life.
Wow. Amazing. Dr. Veronica, how about you? I can't remember. Is this your first book, or did you have a book before this one?
Actually, the book I did now is my 3rd book, and I have my 4th book with you.
I was going to say, I knew you were already an author.
Yes.
But still a big year. What has working with us been like, and what's been the highlight of this past year and a half that we've spent together?
So when I wrote my first 2 books, it was very arduous. It really was. It took years, and it was arduous. And people who write books know what I'm talking about. This was quick. And the beauty of the process has been, I can tell people clearly what I do, and they understand it. And they said, oh, that sounds interesting. Here, take this book. You can have this now. So it has helped clarify in my mind what I do, to be able to, so that other people understand it and say, can you help me? And so now people find it and say, can you help me? Because it's out there in a crisp, clear manner. And that's what your program did.
Love that. Yeah. I think a lot of times people are imagining the book or the reader or the writing, but they don't think about how it's going to change them. Just, you got to be pretty clear to write a book. And so by definition, it sort of changes you and your thinking and your ability to express what you do. That was one of my biggest epiphanies with my book. I became a better coach because I figured out what I did by writing a book about what I'd been doing for 20 years. So I love it. All right, Dr. Drummond, how about you?
Yeah, I think for me, it's really very similar in the sense that, you know, I'd been asked to write a book for about 10 years, and I had a partially completed book that was kind of an arduous mess when I met you. And so I had, you know, the process made it so much simpler, streamlined. You know, I'm a busy practice owner, and I didn't think I could fit it in on the edges, but I really did. And not only that, exactly what you were just talking about, it allowed me to take kind of what I thought was it was my unique approach to working with these patients for over 20 years of developing it. But now I was able to communicate it even more clearly to others. So we, in the last year, built a digital practice with 7 people doing the work that I was kind of struggling to do myself. So now we've reached patients all over the world that we wouldn't have been able to, I just wouldn't have had the time to work with as many patients as now I could, because we have a very clear process.
And even before COVID, because we started working together months before COVID, you were transitioning to having a digital practice. How did that serve you during COVID? How has your business done through this whole pandemic?
Well, the good news is I've really had a primarily digital practice since 2009, but I did have an in-person space that I was using part-time, which I completely let go of in March. And not only that, between really this leveraged clinic, a clinic where I could have more than just myself working individually with these clients, I had so much experience in working in telehealth for so long, and then a very clear experience of specifically developing this clinic in a very clear way that I was able to share that and teach so many of my colleagues who were panicked at during the time of the pandemic, when all of a sudden, you know, as physical therapists, their hands were tied behind their back, quite literally.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a game changer having a book, because shifting to doing things digitally is just a natural transition, and shifting from one-on-one to group, I think a book makes a natural transition. If you're a medium and you're doing one-on-one readings, or you're a chiropractor and you're doing one-on-one adjustments, when you have a book, you have to have a system. Once you have a system, you can have a program. Once you have a program, you can have group clients and leverage your time in a different way. You don't have to, obviously. You can still do the one-on-one stuff, but it opens up that option. So I want to talk about me, my favorite topic. And not just me, but the author incubator in general. I wonder if any of you have a thought on who would do well in this community. Who do you think is a good fit for working with me and for working with our team? What do you think some of the criteria is? Jessica, I feel like you might have a thought.
You know, I think it's people who are ready to just start and trust the process. You know, I have to admit, I've become a bit more woo-woo since joining this community, but in a good way. And the magic of it, you know, that I did not anticipate. But what I think is very powerful about the way you and your team coach is you don't let people sort of just hide, which really is the key to why everyone in this community is successful. There, you know, no one gets left behind. And if you have a clear goal, this team is, and Angela in particular, are going to make sure that you do everything possible to achieve it, go beyond it, or get as close as possible, because they have the tools.
Yeah. Dr. Veronica, what's your thought? Who should avoid me?
You felt what I was thinking. I was like, if you are a control freak, do not do this at all. If you come and say, here's my book and just help me get it published, that's not going to work. You have to surrender to the process and trust that you and your team are going to get the best book that's going to make a difference. You have to do that. If you're coming in and saying, I already have a book and I just want to publish it, and stay away. You are not the ideal client of the author incubator. Am I saying it's true, Kim and Jessica? You have to be willing to come in and say, okay, I'm going to listen to what you say and trust that by the end of this, it's going to be absolutely magnificent. Because what I came in thinking I was going to do is not at all what I came out with. And I am so happy that I was able to just say, okay, they know what they're doing. This is their expertise. I have a different area of expertise. I'm going to trust them as experts, just the way I expect people who come to me to trust me as experts. So if you're not that kind of person, if you think I got a book, I know what I'm doing, stay away, because you're going to be a cancer to the author incubator.
I have to say, I've humbled myself because I'm so strict with my clients. I'm like, you paid me. Why would you be in charge? We know you don't know how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so strict. And then I've hired people, like even dentists. You know, I've hired medical professionals, or I've hired a web guy. And I find myself wanting to tell them how to do their job. And then it's like I have to eat my own words. And I'm like, oh, I should just shut up and let them do it, because I made such a mess out of a crown that I got once because I was trying to tell I literally know nothing. I have not gone to dental school. I know nothing about crowns, but my brain is like, let me be in charge. And it probably cost me an extra 10 grand because I wouldn't just shut up and let someone else who actually knows what they're doing be in charge. So I think it makes, at least I hope it did. You tell me if this was your experience, but I think it has the potential to empower you guys to be the experts that I know you are in your thing, because you watch me do it and you're like, oh, I guess I could do it that way.
Yeah, it definitely improves clarity in my own work. You know, I think that you teach people by your own example and by the structure. Again, there's so much clear structure in your work and your process, how to be leaders that are also aiming to do so much good in the world. And you can't do it if you're wishy-washy.
Right. That's my point.
I think too, you know, I want to give shout out and credit where credit is due through this process. Dr. Angela, you're the mastermind, obviously, behind this whole process. But what people watching don't realize is there are so many very talented people behind the scenes that have helped every single one of us with this book. From, you know, Corey's been my editor. Oh my gosh. I mean, he can take anything written and make it look magical. So I think about that. And then, you know, Leslie and Carmi, and they keep us on task. And it's like, okay, this is due at this point, and this is the steps that you take to getting the Audible book done. I mean, most of us, you think, I would just want to be an author and write this book to get my message out there. But there are so many pieces to writing a book. And your process has made it like super easy to get our message out there. And there are so many people behind the scenes that are helping you and us. And I just, from the bottom of my heart, thank every single one of them.
Yeah. And extra special, since this is an audiobook launch for Dr. Veronica, Corey actually was her narrator, wasn't he?
Yes. It was
so man of many talents.
Yes. What happened is when they say, well, what kind of person would you want to read your book? And Corey was my editor at that time. I said, somebody just like Corey. And what ended up happening is we had somebody who started the process and then disappeared. And then you came to me and said, well, we have a proposition for you. We asked Corey, and Corey was willing to do this special project. And he was just so happy to do that. And it came out wonderful and beautiful, because when you're coming forth with your work, you want it read by somebody who you feel is going to embody it somehow. And, you know, I'm woo-woo like Kim. I felt like Corey was the person to embody my work. And it turned out that way. So,
you know, even cover design. I mean, people don't realize, but there is a lot to cover design. Now, if I had chosen my own cover design and done it myself, it would not have looked nearly as nice. Or the proofreading. I mean, just what you were saying, Dr. Angela, let the experts do what they know best and just allow the process to unfold. And that is really where the magic is at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I often will say, like, my authors are so brave. And I think people are like, what do they mean? Like, that's a weird word. Is it that they expose some deep, dark family secret? And like, sometimes. But I just think there's so much bravery writing a book You have to trust the editors. You have to trust me. You have to trust the designers. And then after all of that, then you got to go have a day like today and put it out in the public. And it can be like standing naked on the street corner. It's just like anyone can be like, really? Endometriosis? You think you know something about endometriosis? Everything, like you're just exposing yourself. And I know when I took forever to put my book out on writing a book. I had ghostwritten like 29 books, but I was just like, I'm supposed to know everything about writing a book, but what if I missed something? What if I got something wrong? What if somebody knows more than me? And it's such a vulnerable process that having awesome people like all of you to share the writing experience is key. And then having a team that's really plugged into the message and the mission at an energetic level, I think matters a lot too. So super excited that you guys shared your stories. Before we wrap it up, anyone have anything else they want to share? Any piece of advice that you might leave to somebody thinking about working with us or thinking about writing a book in general?
Well, I want to say that I'm just so grateful that I said yes. Basically, I walked in the room, I met Angela and knew she was the one. That's how I know. You know, my intuition said she's the one, not knowing hardly anything. And I said yes to it. And because I said yes, there are a lot of people out there who are going to get help that they wouldn't have gotten before. Because I said yes, and the process is the way it is, it now speaks to the people that are going to need help. And there are so many people that need help in all the areas that we're talking about. And that's the important part. Say yes, and then shut up and listen and do what you're supposed to do. And you are tough. You're a tough cookie, and you will shake your finger at us and make us do what we're supposed to do and shut up and humble ourselves. And you work with people with all this education, training, and talent who've been top in their field to get us all to just shut up and follow the process is really a gift and a talent. So thank you. I'm grateful.
Thank you for being a part of it. You're an amazing member of the community. Anyone else? Final thoughts? Jessica? Yeah.
And I would just say that if you're interested in writing a book that's related at all to your business, how you write that book makes a big difference to how useful it is to the business. And for me, you know, I had kind of put this together and I didn't really know what I was doing, and taking the chunky, really terrible first draft and really aligning it with to become a tool for my business has actually increased my revenue during this pandemic year by 43%. So, you can use this as a tool, but you have to do it in a certain way. You can't just kind of wing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. There's a science to it.
And I would like to say that whether you're writing the book to help you with your business or just that you have a message to share with people to get out there, I would tell you to quit sitting on the sidelines and go for it. I mean, you'll be so glad that you did.
Yeah. If not you, who? If not now, when? That's what I say. Well, yes. Audiobooks out now. Dr. Jessica Drummond, Outsmart Endometriosis. Dr. Veronica Anderson, Too Smart to Be Struggling. And Kim Weaver's Death is Not Goodbye. Yeah, if you've got your book, show them, because it's so nice to hold your book in your hands. Congratulations on your incredible work. Best-selling authors, all of you. And I'm so proud to have been a part of this journey. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I will bring Ramses back on and we will say goodbye. I just had so much fun chatting with them. I'm so glad for everybody who is able to join us. Thank you, Ramses, for sharing in this journey and celebrating these authors. I hope everyone who has listened has learned something and been inspired, and maybe you'll head over to theauthorincubator.com/apply and share your book ideas with us.
I love that. It was really nice to kind of take it all in. You know, we're always in the weeds. We're always you and I know we're always on there making sure that the books are getting done. They're going from concept to completion. And just kind of, I had the benefit of just hearing these testimonials from our authors to just kind of hear the work that's really being doing and that is getting out there. So it was kind of nice to take a step back and hear that.
Yeah, and these books, if you go to livefromtheauthorincubator.com, you'll see all these books. Make sure you follow through on your obligation, which was to download at least one book and share at least one book. But we would love you to download them all and share them all. They are free for a very limited time. And so now is the time to get them. So
yeah, exactly. Those ebooks are free now, and definitely for a limited time. So grab them. You know, if you resonate with any messages that any of these authors said, the book that they are putting forward might just be exactly what you need right now, or make a difference in the world of someone that you know. So definitely grab it right now.
Absolutely. Well, that is all for today, everyone. Thank you so much for being a part of our journey, a part of our author showcase today at the Author Incubator, where we are changing the world one book at a time.